They can't get two microphones to work for us, but we are the MCs of the program. I just want to say to all of you, you know, last night, the first historic national strike was called on the Big Three. And in my region, Local 900 went on strike at midnight. That's the only Ford plant in the state, the only Ford plant in the country currently on strike. Now, they may not end up being the only one on strike, but right now we're asking for your support for Local 900. They're helping us all live the American dream. They are making sacrifices right now for what we're going to get in the future, right? A better contract, a better way of life, COLA, record preference do equal record contracts. Now, I'm going to turn it over to my good sister and my sister director, LaShawn English.
Hi. So I want to concur with my sister, Laura Dickerson, just said. I think the mic. Got it? Oh, wow. You got it? Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. But again, she says she's the only one got a strike. But I right now have Blue Cross of Michigan is on strike right now. Right now. And I'm telling you, everybody want what we want, but it takes them 22 years. I need everybody to hear me say this. 22 years to get to the top pay. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. And we're talking about 6, 8 years, but 22 years to reach the top pay. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. So we're all fighting for the same thing. And we got to remember that we are brothers and sisters. So if you get a chance, doesn't matter if you go down to 900 or right down the street, please support the 2 picket lines, or 3. Actually, I have 3. That's going on right now. Please. And if you're not on strike, please also donate supplies because they really do need it. I really do need that of you. Yes. Okay.
Now, we have some special guests here with us. So, as you all know, here in Michigan, we got a trifecta. We also repealed right to work. So with that being said, this is one of our top legislators, our Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson.
Are you guys ready to change the world? Are you guys ready to show the world what happens when people show up? When we fight for people? When we fight for fairness? When we fight for justice? When we fight for good paying jobs for every American? You all here and all around the country, you're going to show the world what happens when people stand up and demand more, demand fairness, demand justice, demand to be a part of things and not just cast to the side. I'm so proud to live in a democracy where every voice is heard. We need to ensure we are in workplaces where every voice is heard. Well, I tell you, you've got the support of everyone here in Michigan. We'll ensure that as the days go forward, we've got your backs. We've got to be clear, this isn't going to be easy. Change never is. But we know our cause is just, right? We know we've got great leaders here, right, that are standing up for all of us. So everyone you're going to hear from today has got your backs. We're standing with you, and we know together we are going to change this world. So let's get it done. Let's keep fighting. And now I'm going to bring up some other great leaders in our state. I'll turn it back to LaShawn. Okay. I don't know. But we're going to fight. We're going to bring up some more folks. We're going to stand with you. We're going to win, right? We're going to win. No matter how long it takes, no matter how long we need to stand together, we will lock arms and say, solidarity wins. Thank you, guys. All right, thanks, guys.
Are we fired up? So what's the name of this strike? We are what? We are what? Okay, so I'm bringing to the stage. She got a name, and they call her Big Gretch. Woo! Our governor, Gretchen Whitmer, to the stage. Put your hands together, everybody. Woo!
All right, UAW brothers and sisters, I'm glad to be with you. Let's affirm things that we all believe in. Number one, Michigan was built by the working people, right? Number two, unions built the middle class. And we all do better when we all do better, amen? And that's what today is about. Building a brighter future where every person can succeed. Learning from our legacy that this is the state that put the world on wheels and assembled the arsenal of democracy while still building the middle class and making sure every person had a path to prosperity, right? So we are living those values. Together, we repealed right to work. We reinstated prevailing wage, and we rolled back the retirement tax. Come on, retirees, I want to hear you. And we've secured 36,000 auto jobs and made record investments in education, infrastructure, housing, workforce development, and them damn roads, right? Because we all want the same thing. Our chance at a good life, a fair shot. We all want to be able to make it in Michigan for us and for our families. And we are all on Team Michigan. So we will continue to fight to ensure that every worker is treated with dignity and respect. And that Michigan continues to lead the world. So I am here with you, my brothers and sisters from the UAW. I love you, I respect you, and I stand with you.
Couldn't do the work that she does without someone by her side. That person we see often in my region, Region 1A, but I will tell you, it is my great honor to introduce not only the Lieutenant Governor, but my friend, Garland Gilchrist.
When I say union, you say strong. Union! 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 Unions not only built Michigan, not only built the middle class, but delivered everything that's valuable to families in America. And what you're fighting for, all of us are fighting for. This moment right here is about solidarity and standing tall together because our futures are connected. We know that what is great for the middle class is great for Michigan. We know that what is fair in the workplace is fantastic for Michigan. We know that what is good for the UAW is good for America. And that is why y'all are fighting so hard. We know that this industry can work for every one of us, those who work at the company and those who run the companies. That is why we are standing together, and I want you to know that this administration, y'all heard from my partner, Gretchen Whitmer, we are going to do everything in our power to make sure that every person can make it in Michigan and be their best. And that means you have to be supported at home and at work. That means you have to know that the people and the manager will stand with you, as well as your leaders who are elected government will stand with you. So when I say union, again, you say strong. Union. 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 Stand tall for Michigan, everybody. Thank you. God bless the UAW.
What's going on? You guys are ready to rumble now, aren't you? We're in it, baby. This is what happens when corporations don't take care of the people. I'm up here right now to introduce somebody that's one of the best warriors in the battle against the corporate class and the billionaire class. It's time that politicians in this country pick a side. You know, we've been accused of causing a class war. Class war has been going on for 40 years in this country. The billionaire class has been taking everything, and the working class has been left scraping paycheck to paycheck, just trying to survive. It's time to put an end to that class war. And it's time to pick a side. Either you're with the billionaire class or you're with the working class. So it's my pleasure to introduce one of the strongest allies we have in labor, one of our biggest allies for economic and social justice for everybody. He's a lifelong warrior in the fight against the corporate class, kicking ass against the billionaire class. Chair of the Senate Labor Committee, UAW family and friends, I'm proud to introduce Senator Bernie Sanders.
Whoa. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, UAW. Thank you for inviting me, and it is an honor for me to be here with you today. And let me thank the UAW for standing up not only for your own members, but for the working class of this country. The fight you are waging here is not just about decent wages and working conditions and pensions in the automobile industry. It is a fight to take on corporate greed and tell the people on top this country belongs to all of us, not just a few. There is a reason why a recent Gallup poll had 75% of Americans supporting the UAW. They are sick and tired of an economy in which the rich get richer while working families struggle and the most desperate sleep out on the streets. So what this struggle is about here in the Midwest is a demand that we finally have an economy that works for all of us, not just a few. And I want to do something, I want to say a few words about something you don't see much about on TV or in the halls of Congress. And that is what is going on in the American economy today and what has gone on for decades. Believe it or not, that at a time of unprecedented income and wealth inequality today, weekly wages for the average American worker are lower today than they were 50 years ago. In other words, despite a massive increase in worker productivity in the automobile industry and in every sector of our economy, despite the fact that CEOs now make 400 times on what their average worker makes, despite record-breaking corporate profits, despite corporate America spending hundreds of billions on dividends and stock paybacks, the average American worker today is worse off than he or she was 50 years ago. Brothers and sisters, that is exactly what this strike is all about. And that is why every worker in America, white collar, blue collar, in between, has got to stand with the UAW in your struggle for justice. In America today, while we have more income and wealth inequality than we have ever had in the history of this country, you got 3 people on top owning more wealth than the bottom half of American society. Despite all of that wealth, brothers and sisters, and you know this well, 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. Paycheck to paycheck. And that means that every day they are living under the incredible stress. They're worried about paying the rent. They're worried about putting food on the table. They're worried about being able to afford to go to a doctor when their kid gets sick. They're worried about the high cost of child care. They are worried about whether they'll ever be able to send their kids to college. I grew up in a family that lived paycheck to paycheck, and I know a little bit about that. This is the richest country in the history of the world, and families in America, families in the automobile industry, should not have to live with that kind of stress. And let me tell you, and Sean has made this point over and over again, in the last 50 years, there has been a massive redistribution of wealth. Problem is, it's gone in the wrong direction. Instead of going from the top down to the bottom, it's gone from the bottom up to the top. And what this strike is about, and what workers are standing up all over this country for, is we're going to reverse that trend. If the ruling class of this country wants a redistribution of wealth, we're going to give it to them. And one of the reasons I am so proud to be in Detroit today with the UAW is all of you know your own history. You know that back in 1937, 86 years ago, your grandparents stood up and helped transform this country. With incredible courage, they took on the corporate greed of their day, the power of the large corporations, and they helped pave the way, creating a middle class in America. That's what the UAW did in 1937. And here we are today in 2023, 86 years later. And once again, the UAW and grow the middle class of America. Thank you very much. Thank you. So just among friends, I would like to say a word to the CEOs of General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis. Understand, folks, understand, CEOs, the enormous financial sacrifices your workers have made over the years. It is time for you to end your greed. It is time for you to treat your employees with the respect and dignity they deserve. It is time to sit down and negotiate a fair contract. Now, I say to Mary Barra, the CEO of General Motors, last year you made over $29 million. Since you became CEO 8 years ago, you have made over $200 million in total compensation. And I say to Ms. Barrow, do you have any clue what it's like for one of your workers to try to survive on $17 an hour, which is the average starting wage of an automobile worker, $17 an hour? Do you know, Ms. Barrow, what it's like to try to raise a family, put food on the table, and pay rent when you're making $20 an hour? And I say to Carlos Tavares, the CEO of Stellantis, Mr. Tavares, last year you received a 22% pay raise. And now you make over $25 million in total compensation. Do you know, Mr. Tavares, what it is like to be classified as a temp? And despite working year after year, you remain a temp, receiving wages and benefits significantly lower than your brothers and sisters doing the same exact work. Mr. Tavares, do you have any clue what that is about? And I say to Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford, Mr. Farley, last year you made nearly $21 million in total compensation. And my guess is that when you retire from your job, you're going to have a great pension, golden handshake, and all kinds of benefits. Do you have any clue as to what it's like to be a worker getting older, having worked your entire life, and not having any money in the bank as you prepare for retirement? And let us all be very clear. I know sometimes the media has, to say the least, not been as clear as it might be on this. And let's be clear that what the UAW is fighting for is not radical. In the first half of 2023, the big three automakers made $21 billion in profits in 6 months, up 80% from the same time period last year. In other words, they're doing pretty good. Over the past decade, the big three made $250 billion in profits in North America alone. Last year, these companies spent $9 billion not to improve the lives of their workers, but to pay for stock buybacks and dividends to make their wealthy stockholders even richer. Meanwhile, while the CEOs and stockholders in the automobile industry made out like bandits, the workers who build the vehicles, you, are earning totally inadequate wages and over the last several decades have fallen further and further behind. All of you know that there was once a time when a union job in the automobile industry was the gold standard for the working class in America. Well, we are determined to bring those days back again. We will not accept that over the last 20 years, the average wage for American auto workers has decreased by 30% after adjusting for inflation. Do you want to know why you're out on strike right now? That's the reason. Now, I read a lot in the media about how a strike is going to be bad for the economy. Well, let me tell you something about the economy. When you have auto workers who cannot afford to buy the cars they make, that is bad for the economy. When you have auto workers who can't afford to take out a mortgage to buy a modest home, that is bad for the economy. When you have auto workers who can't afford child care or to save up to send their kids to college, that is bad for the economy. When you have auto workers who can't afford prescription drugs, can't afford health care, that is bad for the economy. It is totally reasonable for auto workers to finally receive a fair share of the record-breaking profits that their labor has produced. It means that if the big three can afford to spend $9 billion on dividends and stock buybacks last year, they can afford to provide a decent COLA to auto workers so their wages keep pace with inflation. It means that the time is long overdue to end the disastrous two-tier system. It means finally ending the use of temporary workers. And very importantly, it means that every auto worker receives a decent pension plan so they can retire with dignity. It means that workers should have the right to strike when an auto company announces that they will be shutting down another profitable plant in the United States. And by the way, over the years, they've shut down 65 of those plants. But that's not all. It means that as we combat climate change, the existential threat of climate change, and try to make sure that this planet is healthy and habitable for our kids, that when the auto industry builds new electric vehicle and battery plants, it means that the workers in those plants become part of the UAW and receive the same wages and benefits as union members. Brothers and sisters, the CEOs of General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis, and their major stockholders on Wall Street have got to understand they cannot have it all. We refuse to live in an oligarchy. We refuse to accept a society in which so few have so much and so many have so little. Brothers and sisters, enough is enough. Let us stand together to end corporate greed. Let us stand together to rebuild the disappearing middle class. Let us create an economy that works for all, not just the 1%. And let us all, every American in every state in this country, stand with the UAW. Thank you very much.